onto thumb and fingers. Okay, so for the thumb does a whole lot of things. What are some of the motions that the thumb does?
Opposition, adduction.
Yep. So you know it, but what do those actually look like? Because it kind of does this whole weird little thing. What is flexion? Nope, that's IP flexion. About carpal metacarpal flexion. That's it. That's your whole carpal metacarpal flexion. Anything after that is metacarpal phalangeal, MCP flexion, or IP flexion. So when we're measuring CMC, carpal metacarpal flexion extension, you're actually first going to have to find that starting angle because you're not going to get a whole lot of movement. It's 15 degrees for CMC flexion, 20 degrees for CMC extension, and you're looking at this little angle here, okay? So I'm actually going to have you palm up, and I'm going to bring your arm back a little. Pain or discomfort there? No. Okay. Your axis is going to be your CMC joint, so carpal metacarpal joint. Your moving arm is going to be along the first metacarpal, and your stationary arm is going to be along the radius. What I was saying about finding that first, actually, can I have you sit facing the table on this side?
What was the moving arm again?
Your first metacarpal. And then palms gonna be up here. Still okay, still comfortable? Cool. Can you guys still see? Okay. So your first CMC joint, carpal metacarpal, is your axis. Moving arm is along that first metacarpal. Stationary arm is along the radius. But this is her resting position. Like I was saying, you get not a whole lot of movement for flexion because anything past this little bit, you're actually moving into what?
Pronation.
Well, if I move your wrist. But if I move her thumb, anything past this, what am I actually starting to move into?
Oh,
Opposition. So it's a very subtle change. You okay?
Yeah.
Does it hurt?
No.
Oh. So that's why you just have to be careful of how far you're pushing and what motion you're actually feeling. When you start to feel any roll of that first CMC, then that becomes opposition. That's where you stop. I'm gonna do it this way. So where her hand rests, that's gonna be your starting position. I can move her in and out of it, so I know she has 0 flexion and 0 extension, right? Wherever she's resting, that's gonna be her starting point. Up along the forearm, in line with that first metacarpal. So this, like I was saying last time, you can, with the hand, you can move the Goni with it because it's little motions and hard to keep the hand in the position kind of where you want it. But I'm just gonna feel, so that her starting, oh, sorry, I mentioned that. Her starting position is at 20 degrees. Can you guys kind of see that a little bit on the camera? I know it's teeny tiny, but so taking a note of what her starting position is. And then I'm going to move her into the flexion. And I'm stopping there. And she has 3 degrees. She's at 3 degrees, so 20 minus 3.
17.
So it's 17 degrees of flexion. Does everyone understand that? Okay. And then same thing, same position, stabilizing distal radial ulnar joint to make sure she's not pronating or supinating, and also holding the Goni in the same position. Bring her into extension. I start at 20, that's her starting position. Bringing her out. I'm gonna stop there. She's at 38, so, yep, 20 or 38 minus 8, or 20.
So is it default 20 for everyone?
Nope.
So you have to first...
So you're gonna get your patient positioned, you're gonna find their bony landmarks, and then you're gonna measure that. So it could be 10, it could be 15, it could be 17. You need to find your patient's starting position. Does that make sense? It's not gonna be 20 for everyone, it's 20 for her. Okay?
And Dr. Leonard, where is the fulcrum? Is it on the carpal bone or
The CMC joint. The first CMC joint, carpal metacarpal, where your first Metacarpal runs into what bone? Which bone holds up the thumb?
Oh, scapula.
Trapezoid.
Trapezium holds
The other
up
one.
the thumb.
The other trip.
I mean, there's 7 or so. You'll get it eventually, right? Correct. Scaphoid is one in the snuff box. Okay. Questions about thumb flexion extension, CMC flexion extension.
So how did you know like when to stop? I guess I got
So
confused
that's a
by
feel. We're not going to be, if you pull this one on the practical card, we're not going to, if you go a little bit too far, we're not going to be too mad, but the normative flexion is 15 degrees, extension is 20. So if you're saying she's got 30 degrees of CMC flexion, you're probably too far off, right? But if you're saying she has 25, maybe. But it really is a field that you just have to know that this is a transverse plane motion. It's a single line. Well, I guess that would be frontal plane if you're in the anatomical position. That's one. I'm feeling her bone just moving in one plane. As soon as I come past this, you start to feel a roll. Does that make sense to everybody? And that roll that you start to feel at this point, that's what? So you have to go slow, you have to be careful, and you can feel it.
I can see it, yeah.
You can see it, you can feel it,
I don't feel anything.
but you can see it. So there's,
see it.
it's sliding in one plane, it rolls over. I don't know if you guys can see that on the camera, it's a very slight. We can also come around and kind of help you feel for that. It takes practice. Like I said, we're not gonna be super sticklers on the practical if you're a few degrees off or if you start to go a few degrees in opposition, but we want you to at least explain that concept to us. Does that make sense?
Can we just break out and practice this one first?
Or do you want me to?
Yeah.
Okay, we'll
Yes.
practice them. Okay.